Well, good afternoon, good evening, my students. Thank you for watching this video. This video is here to kind of show you what our next unit is and the importance of this unit. So make sure that you have the discussion sheet with this little video. You will be doing some stuff with that sheet here pretty soon. So let me just begin. Yesterday or today, you just took a summative over Unit 3 and 4, and that was all about measurement of economic performance and seeing how everything in our entire economy affects the macroeconomy. You were able to make some graphs, you were able to look at real GDP and price levels. And now to really get into the meaning of price levels and the meaning of that real GDP, we go over the financial sector. So today you learned a little bit about money as well. After your summative, we watched a short video on what is it that money does. And I told you that there were 3 functions to the paper money that we use each and every day. The first one, and I really cannot stress this enough, it is a medium of exchange. Money has no value whatsoever unless it can absolutely be a medium of exchange. If it can't be a medium of exchange, it's not going to be useful. So let's say I choose to go to Cambodia and I bring a bunch of Chinese RMB. If I try to pay for a lot of stuff in Chinese RMB, they're not going to take it because to them it is not a medium of exchange. Now, if I really needed to convert my money to the US dollar, because they do take the US dollar, then I can do that. But if they didn't accept any of that, then it would not be a medium of exchange. Money must be a medium of exchange. It's also a unit of account. It must be able to measure the value of all the goods and services. So when I go to La Barista and I buy my favorite coffee, the caramel macchiato, it is 34 RMB. The thing is, money gives us the price range of all of our goods and services. If we don't have the price range, then unfortunately we will not know how much it takes to buy and purchase a good or service. So a unit of account is really important because without it, we would have no idea what the value of anything would be. My MacBook could potentially be as useful or as valuable as, say, a coffee if money was not a very good unit of account. And then the last one is it's a store of value. Your money must be able to stay as that same value from today to tomorrow to years from now. Even though you'll have a little bit of inflation, you can still have around the same purchasing power of that same 100 RMB tomorrow. If you don't, it's a horrible store of value. So our money must be able to do all 3 of these things. If it can't, it's worthless. So what is this financial sector that we're going over? Banks. Literally, that's all you have to say. Banks. All of the banks in the macroeconomy make up our financial sector. You can probably talk more specifically about what other types of institutions make up the financial sector, but for this class, banks. And the stock market as well. Every time you buy a stock on your Investopedia account, you are actually doing something within the financial sector. So here are some key terms that you're going to need to know for the financial sector. While you may not hear them as much on an AP test, they are still really important to when we're dissecting different questions. The first here is the financial asset. This is just a paper claim that entitles a buyer to future income from the seller. Believe it or not, this is actually what a stock is. Every time you purchase a stock on your Investopedia account, you now have it's not paper, it's more digital, but a digital claim that entitles you to future income from the seller. Now, this is all fake money you're using, but it is still a claim to future monies. And then the next one, physical asset. This is a claim on an object that gives any owner the right to do with it as he or she wishes. My best example for this is my iPhone. I love my iPhone, but I have a claim on that object. It is my object. If I want to throw it in class, I will throw it in class. I had to look at my iPhone because I was just about to throw it. I'm not actually going to throw it because I love it. The biggest physical asset that people in macroeconomies usually have are houses and cars. So the next one, and this is really important, especially for the next class, is a liability. That is anything that is owed. So if you go and borrow money, that is now a debt, or to you, a liability. You must pay that money back at some point. If you don't, something bad is going to happen to you. Usually, you can just be talked to by the cops or by an institution. I don't really know. But for you, when you borrow money, that is now a liability. So an example here that I brought, and I really enjoy talking about random students, so I'll just begin here. I borrow money from Mr. Wilson. And now that is a liability to me. But what's great is that's now a financial asset to Wilson. So you can kind of see, for me, I owe the money, that is a liability. But for Wilson, that is a financial asset because he's going to be able to get future income from me. The next one is a loan. This is basically what I just did to borrow money from Mr. Wilson here. This is an agreement between a lender and a borrower. This is usually done between banks. Or if you watch a lot of TV, loan sharks. It just so happens that the loan shark, if you choose to not pay the money back, will probably break your legs. But for normal banks, if you choose not to pay the money back from a loan, they will usually take away your assets. Every loan will always have some sort of an interest rate. Pay attention to that. That's a really important term, interest rate. If an interest rate is too high, people don't want to borrow money. Interest rate is low, people will definitely borrow money. So, why on earth do we even want to talk about banks? These three right here is what you are going to have to work with and talk about as your homework assignment. Banks or financial institutions do these three things. They reduce the transaction costs for all the stuff that you want to do. So if you have a debit or ATM card, you go and you swipe that into a machine and you get cash. If you have a high price that you have to pay to get that cash, that is a high transaction cost. Or back in the 1800s and early 1900s, you couldn't just go to the bank and get the money quickly. You had to either pay a fee to get it, and sometimes that was very high. But banks and financial institutions wish to reduce transaction costs. Even when you are investing in a stock in Investopedia, you will notice that the transaction cost for each purchase of a stock is about $4.99. Reducing financial risk is the next one. Every time you invest your money, every time you put your money into something, you are risking your money. Because tomorrow, a bank could be gone. Tomorrow, your stock could lose all of its value. But the thing is, every bank, every stock market tries to make you feel good about yourself by making you realize, like, hey, you're not actually losing that much. And then number 3 is providing liquid assets. Now, liquidity is a really cool word. It doesn't mean water or coffee. It just means cash, basically. A piece of cash, if you bring out 10 RMB or 100 RMB, that's liquid. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that is a piece of liquid in your hands right there. That's because it's cash. You can easily buy goods and services with that liquid cash. Now, the less liquid it gets, the harder it is to get cash for it. So like your house, it's not very liquid because you can't easily just get cash for that house. It's going to take time to get it. It's going to require an insane amount of transaction cost and a huge amount of risk because the value might be lost. So, I don't really need to go over these right here, but as you are looking at the financial sector, as you are looking in the stock market, usually people will try to gain more value, gain more liquidity, and reduce their risk by going into specific stocks, such as a mutual fund, which is just a bunch of stocks together into one fund, so that if one stock loses a bunch of value, all the other stocks that didn't lose a whole lot will kind of cushion that. A pension fund, this is basically a mutual fund as well. And then banking. Putting your money into a bank reduces your risk of losing your money. Especially me, I lose my money almost constantly. It's usually just in my house, but sometimes I'll lose track of 100 RMB pretty easily. If I just put that in a bank, well, look at that. The risk is gone. So this is the last slide before you need to get to your little sheet that I gave you for homework. So there are 3 types of money. We looked at this during the video during class, but just to bring it back up, commodity money. This is a good used as a medium of exchange. So if I want to take Cuperica, for example, in class I talked about how I'm going to start using books as my medium of exchange. If you need to buy goods and services in Cuperica, just give me a book. I will then easily do that good and service for you. The next one, commodity-backed money. This is money that can be converted into a commodity. So let's say your paper money. Back in the 1800s and early 1900s, most money in the world was based on this. Your cash could easily be converted into that same value of gold or silver. And then the last one, before I let you go, is fiat money, or fiat if you really like Italy as well. This is money that's just used as a medium of exchange because the government said so. Literally, it has no value. The government has just said that you have to use this. That's it. Now, again, the value comes from the fact that it can be exchanged for goods and services. But the fact that that cash is just there because the government said so, that doesn't give it its value. So make sure on Canvas you have the discussion sheet that I have given to you. Please pay very close attention to everything that is on there. Thank you guys so much for listening to this video. If you have any comments about it, please email me. This is my first video given to you, so I am open for you to criticize this. Anyway,